Good morning, brethren. Yes, this is not a test for Brother Stephen. Normally, when he wants to know, can you hear me? And I speak, unfortunately or fortunately, and depending on how it turns out, I'm speaking in my own right. Today, this morning, Brother Stephen is suffering in pain, and he has asked me to facilitate the process. So let me just tell you what it is on the advice of our master tutor. So this is going to be a battle royal between the genders, and just wonder, I should have given the men a heads up so that I can't have me unbiased, they come out on top. But the challenge today is going to be to look through the scriptures to identify lives that have been transformed, whether it is for the good or for the bad. So we want to look out, come up with an example of a life that has been transformed, changed from one state to another, whether it is a positive change or a negative change. And as an unbiased crew, we're going to award the presentation that was the most compelling one. And whether that's presented by someone from the men or from the women, that gender would have won the day's battle. So we know that we are Christians, so we're going to vote objectively as to who presents the most compelling story of a transformation from the scriptures. So we're going to give, about 5 minutes or so for you to pull up the story, or do you need more time? 5 minutes good enough? You don't like when we have the long gap. So yes, let's look at 5 minutes. Well, I'm going to round it up. At 11:25, we open the floor. And the goal here, as I said, is for you to look into the scriptures, look at somebody's life who has, undergone some transformation, and to present the case and the implications. Well, I'm not going to go into how you're going to present, but at the end, we will have a vote as to the most compelling story, most impactful presentation. Are there any questions? Is there clarity as to the goal? Is it possible that you could indicate that you are aware of the requirements and that we are fully on board? If you could just put something in chat, yes, no, maybe so. So somebody says they're not clear. You're going to go to the scriptures, look at someone whose life has been changed. Story of someone whose life has been changed. And then there are going to be presentations of the story. You come on live, put up your mic and present the story of the transformation. And at the end of the process, we're going to have a vote as to which presentation was the most impactful, impactful. Clear? All right, 11:25, we're back. And it's a battle between the men and the women. I know Stephen has been keeping score. So this is an opportunity for the men, I think, who are behind to catch up, or the women to extend their lead. All right. I'll be quiet for a little while now. Sometimes people say the music disturbs them, so I won't play anything. Correct, Sister Brown. A biblical character, someone in the Bible who experienced a life-changing situation. Their lives were transformed, and we want to present their story and, of course, draw some conclusions from it, some insights from it. So that's the idea. Hmm? Okay, I think we are ready, hopefully. Who wants to go first? Okay, Brother Jason, go.
So starting in Genesis 25, chapter 19.
Sorry, not hearing you well. I'm sorry.
Oh. My internet connection might be a little bad. So can you hear me okay now?
Hold on. Yes, sorry.
So starting in Genesis 25, verse 19, that's the birth of Jacob and Esau, where we meet Jacob. Throughout Jacob's life, as you go through the following chapters, you'll see him deceive and coerce his own family members for blessings and for riches, his brother and his father, lying to him and tricking them, only to be chased off to meet up with his uncle and have his own flesh and blood trick and deceive him to a point where he wrestles with God on his way back, and he comes back to the same brother he deceived, humbled and willing to call himself his servant and willing to basically put his life on the line with his brother, assuming he would be so angry. That you have this drastic change from someone who's willing to deceive and trick their own family members to someone who lowered himself to those same and humbled himself to those same people he once was deceiving.
Okay. Thank you, Brother Jason. All right. I hope we are listening, because at the end of the day, the voting goes to you. Okay. Our next, I think Sister Kayla Brown had up.
Good morning. I chose Peter because Jesus said he was going to deny that he knew him 3 times, and then a rooster will crow 3 times, and then it happened. And then Peter recommitted to spread the gospel of Christ. This can be found in Luke chapter 22.
Went a little fast for me. Not sure. Could you just slow it down a little bit and go again?
Good morning. I chose Peter because Jesus said he was going to deny that he knew him 3 times, and then a rooster will crow 3 times, and then it happened. And then Peter recommitted to spread the gospel of Christ. This can be found in Luke chapter 22.
Okay. Got it. So, basically Peter's transformation. In other words, Christ predicted that he would betray him. He actually did. But, as we know from the scriptures, Peter was one of the major presenters of the gospel. All right, thanks. Oh, battle heating up. All right. Next.
Okay, I'll go.
Okay. So Beverly, go ahead.
Yes. I like the story of Adonijah. That was one of King David's son who proclaimed himself king when King David was very ill and about to die. He proclaimed himself king. But as we have learned, he that exalted himself shall be made abased by Christ. He was brought down because Bathsheba went to David and reminded him that their son, Solomon, was supposed to be king, and Solomon was made king, and Bathsheba had to turn around and decide to serve King Solomon, or else he would have been put to death. So that was his transformation from proclaiming himself king to becoming a servant of his brother.
Okay, so that's Adonijah. Okay, all right. Thank you. Next. Okay, Sister Paula, go.
Good morning, everyone. From Saul, transformation to Paul, where Saul used to crucify the Christians, persecute the Christians, and what happened to him on his way to where God strike him down and he turned over to be spreading the gospel, turning and and writing letters, helping out the Corinthian, the people in Corinthians. So yeah.
Okay. Men. Sister Elise, go.
Good morning. I'm thinking of the story of Joseph. Joseph, who had been thrown into the pit by his brothers. They were so jealous of him. Eventually, he was sold into slavery. And then he was a part of Potiphar's household. He was thrown into prison when he decided to stand up for his God because of Potiphar's wife, who wanted to get sexual favors from him. And while he was there, he was able to interpret dreams while he was in prison. And he eventually got out of prison. He was given one of the highest offices in the land. He eventually reunited with his brothers, and it happens to be just one of those, the greatest lessons in forgiveness, because his brothers thought that they were doing something, to just get rid of him, but eventually he was restored, from such a low position to riches, and he became the highest ruler in Egypt. And he eventually turned, he eventually forgave his brothers. So it was really a very interesting and up and down life for him. He was transformed in that way, that he was able to forgive the brothers for what they had done to him. So that's my story.
Okay. All right. Next. Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, brothers. Come on, bro. Sorry. Next. We're open for any gender. Come on, man. Come on, man. Next. Just mic up. All right. Oh, Sister Tammy, go ahead. Come on, man. Come on, man. Go ahead, Sister Tammy.
Oh. Hello.
Go ahead.
I would say Esther. Good morning. I'd say Esther's transformation. When Mordecai came to her to ask her to deliver God's people, she was very hesitant at first, and looking at a lot of status quo and what the protocols were for her to approach. She was very hesitant about going forward, and then just through a lot of planning with Mordecai, when Mordecai was very clear that, even if you don't help, God is not going to let his people suffer. He will find a way to deliver. And then she was able to transform and step up to the plate to do really what was her purpose. So that would be my example.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you. Good. Good stuff. Next. If you're joining us late, there's a battle of the genders. We're examining, you identify any biblical character who has experienced some transformation in their life, whether it is for good or for bad, and then you share it And the most compelling presentation wins. And not necessarily, yeah, well, the impact of what you have shared. So we're not actually looking at how you presented, etc. It's the content, relevance, and impact. So we have had one presentation from the men so far, and a number of compelling presentations from the women as well. So Brother Engel steps up to the plate. Oh, Brother Engel.
Okay, Brother Smith. I have a few examples, but let me just choose one of them here. I want to look at some men who were concerned about the catch of the day, which were smelly, but eventually they were concerned with the catch of the century, which was the soul of men. So I look at the disciples who Jesus had converted them from fishers of sea creatures to fishers of men, from removing the scales of fish to removing the sinful scales from our eyes, from gutting the evil intention from the heart of men, who revolutionized the world as it is today, no longer concerned with the physical cares of the world, but were transformed to bring about a radical change today.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Go ahead, Father David. And the men.
It's Elia.
It's Elia. Okay. Okay, sorry. Go ahead. Elia.
I chose Thomas because in John chapter 20, verse 24 to 29, Thomas was doubtful to believing that Jesus was alive, but everything changed when Jesus came to him and showed him the scars on his hand. And he was amazed and became a believer.
Okay.
I'm finished.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Hand still up, David, or no? Okay, I was putting it down. You did. All right. Anybody else? Let's keep this door open for another couple of minutes. All right. Extra points of poetry. Yeah, I suspect so. I don't know. It's up to you to vote. David, go ahead. Or Tenant Tribe.
Brother Smith, I'd like to use the Philippian jailer from Acts chapter 16. You recall that Paul and Silas were preaching. They had just cast out the demon from the woman, and the magistrates commanded them to be beaten with rods, and they were beaten and thrown into the prison. And the jailer was commanded to keep them secured. The jailer, receiving the charge, decided that he was going to go over and above in his treatment of them. So he put them into the inner prison, which is the darkest part of the prison, one of the worst conditions in the prison. And not only that, in addition to that, he fastened their feet in the stocks so their feet could not move. A very, very severe treatment. That was what the jailer did. Paul and Silas, as we know, prayed and sung, and there was an earthquake, and the foundations of the prison were shaken, and the chains were loosed. And at that point in time, the jailer came inside, saw the gates open, saw the chains loosed, but he didn't see the escapees. And so at that point in time, he was ready to kill himself. And the idea of him killing himself probably came from the previous chapters where the persons who had allowed Paul to escape previously, those persons were killed. The jailer, instead of waiting for execution, was about to kill himself. And at that point, Paul showed himself along with the other prisoners, telling him not to do them do himself any harm, for they're here. And at that point in time, the jailer cried out, "Sirs, what must I do to be saved?" They received the instructions, and the jailer who had placed Paul into the inner prison, into the dungeon, and placed his feet into the stocks was the same jailer who now opened his house to Paul and the believers. At the same time, he washed their stripes, meaning that he tended to their wounds, and immediately he and his family were baptized. He set food before them, and they were all rejoicing together. A major transformation in the space of one night in the life of one man and his household. So that is my major transformation.
Oh, thank you, sir. All right. Door still open. So remember, we're going to actually vote by acclaim. So far, while you're thinking, we still have the door open. Let me just share so far where we are. We have Brother Jason, who looked at Tricky Jacob and how he actually was transformed into humbling himself before people that he was kind of messing around with. Kayla and looked at Peter and betrayal to one of the foremost presenters of the gospel. Sister Beverly looked at Adonijah, who tried to usurp the kingdom and then found that he had to actually serve. Paula did the Saul to Paul conversion. And Brother Andre put that in the chat afterwards, but that's gone. Sister Elise looked at Joseph and his journey from being sold into slavery and to his ascension. Tammy looked at Esther and the situation with Esther where, she was so caught up with the protocols, etc. But eventually came through and made a huge difference. Engel, I don't know if you can forget the graphical, the analogies that were used to look at the disciples and the kind of skills that they removed, changed from fish to eyes. Earlier, Thomas and his doubting state to one of being a believer, and David had actually pulled out the Philippian jailer and his rough treatment to being totally transformed in terms of his action towards Paul and Silas. So, is there one last? Or, well, maybe we can actually take two, depending on how fast you go. Yeah, we have time. Go, Brother Kirk.
Yes, sir. I'm thinking of Gideon. When Gideon was basically found by the angel, kind of on the outskirts, trying to, stretch the wine and hide it from the Midianites. And instead of calling him a coward, etc., they called out his potential, being a mighty warrior. So Gideon was kind of puzzled, like, you see me around up and down here. Me hear about the things that you have done in the past, but now God leave way. God no business both way. So me I hide and me I do my thing. But they managed to convince him, say, listen, you can do it. You can lead it, Israel to a victory. And if you draw on the power and the might of the Lord. So he believed it, he did it, and we know the victory that took place.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Well, these stories have come out, I like the presentation. And by the way, while we're doing this, and it's an activity, and there's some competition around it. I don't know. As I'm listening, I am being inspired. I'm being motivated by these characters. So it is really a strong learning process as well, that how these lives have been transformed and what it is that we can take from it in terms of our learning and in terms of how we can influence others. Look at the last case that Kirk raised about Gideon. Is there someone in our reach, within our sphere of influence, that we could in fact inspire to great things, to the glory of God? If you think about Esther, it's the same thing, the one that Tammy raised, where, here it is, that someone was motivated to use their position to achieve great things for God. So as we are doing this, I want us to be drawing from it more, in terms of not only our lives, but how it is that we can influence others. If you look at the earlier situation with Thomas, are there people who are not so sure about all of this thing about God and Christ and all of that? Is there some way that we could use the scriptures to bring them to greater clarity, greater surety as to their faith? But don't let me ramble here. Go ahead, Sister Smith.
I want to paint a picture, and I want for you to see in your mind's eye, from prostitution to purpose. This woman was a prostitute, Rahab, and her life was completely transformed when God rewarded her faith. From prostitution to purpose. She was able to help the spies, and she made a difference in the world. She was lost, but God sought her out and used her for his purpose. It reminds us it's like the lost sheep. The man searches for the one that was lost until he finds it, then he rejoices because what was lost has been brought home. Rahab was brought out of prostitution. God used her for his purpose. I think this could be a case study. We need to ask Stephen whether the diagnosis would be scatterbrain, grog, grazer's grief, climber's condition, or flock fallacy. But this is a good case study. Lost from prostitution, promoted to purposeful life. That's mine.
Thank you, Sister Smith. Obviously trying to get points here. Fortunately, Stephen is not here, so nobody will reward her recollection of the lessons. Sorry. Thank you, Sister Smith. So we now have Rahab. All right. Anybody else? We have one last one because we want to kind of, actually we do have time. I forget, we start at 11:15. Let's go. Powerful messages. Yes? Going. All right, if we have run out of cases, great. Kirk, another one. Go, Kirk.
The other one that came to mind was Moses. When he was called initially, find all sorts of excuses why he was not the right person, that God should find somebody else, etc., etc., etc. But we see how Moses rose to prominence and power, that his face shone, and he could even see God get to be hidden in the cleft of the rock to have God pass by him. He get to reason with God as a friend and not just hear stories. So he really moved from where we saw him at the first time to becoming really powerful and powerfully used by God.
Thank you, sir. Very good. Tenant tribe.
All right, let me try to remember. I think Manasseh, he was king of Judah at 12, and he did evil in the sight of the Lord, practiced sorcery, the high places that Hezekiah had removed his father. And the Lord had spoken to him and the people and had told them to change their ways. And they weren't listening. And so God brought an army up against them. He was taken away into captivity, and he prayed to God, and he was released, and God saved them, him and the people. And after that, no, he believed that God was Lord, and removed all the idols, removed the high places, and served God for the rest of his life.
Oh, okay. All right, thanks, Sister Sandra. No. Good. The man said, okay. So this is a case of going rogue and being restored. Good. So again, if you listen to the sermon today, you know, if your batteries are weak, that's a case that you can in fact be recharged. So this is a good example. That's aligned with this morning's message. Good stuff. All right. So how are we going to go about deciding on what is the most compelling of the cases presented? So again, let me just quickly recap. Sorry, I see somebody in chat. Let me just double check here. Okay, Brother Engel has a last entry. Ethiopian. What part of the rules is that you need to come up, Brother Engel? You need to present it. That's part of the rules. Stick with the rules. You have to come on. Voice up, please. Engel?
I was going to say that I passed.
Go ahead.
What was I? The Ethiopian eunuch. He went with questions to Jerusalem and returned with answers. He met Philip, and his life was transformed. He got knowledge about Jesus Christ, so he was no longer, in addition to being minister of finance, he now live as minister of faith. So that's the transformation, and history has shown that, the spread of the gospel in the regions of those northern parts of Africa and the great movements that took place. We can theoretically assume and account for his work that was done through that journey. So that's just a transformation that I will speak about, found in what I said, Acts 8.
Okay.
Thereabouts.
All right, thank you. All right, so voting time. One approach to doing it is that I'm just going to sort of go through the list, and then when we say pool's open, you type in the chat the most compelling presenter, the story. And again, it's not the way the person presented, not playing down Father Engel and Sister Smith in terms of trying to influence the votes is the content and and the impact. Okay, that the contexts are good. I'm not denying it. So, but anyway, what I would like to do is that we go through, and then when we say polls open, you type in the chat the name of the person who gave you the most compelling story, not presentation, whatever. Yeah, most impactful, citing the most impactful transformation. Right, that's the way to deal with it. Who cited the most impactful transformation in the chat. And then we will just know who wins. That's okay? Everybody can type in the chat. So we're ready to go. All right, so let me just run through. Brother Jason spoke to Jacob and recounted Jacob. You remember a lot of deception and so on, and the change that took place in him, wrestled with God, all of those things. Kayla looked at Peter and moving from actual denial, predicted denial. You warned that you're going to, deny me, and he did, but yet still, he's one of the promoters of the gospel. Sister Beverly looked at Adonijah, who tried to usurp the kingdom, and then he had to be brought down and to serve under Solomon. Sister Paula looked at Saul and his road to Damascus transformation. Sister Elise looked at Joseph. Interesting story of Joseph, who actually was sold into slavery, and the journey, ups and downs, prison, all sorts of different things. But ultimately, really powerful in terms of his role in Egypt. And of course, saving of his family. Sister Tammy looked at Esther and the initial response to Mordecai's admonition, request that she goes and saves her people. And then ultimately, she does it and makes a huge difference. Brother Engel, looked at the disciples, called from catching fish to saving souls, and removing scales of fish to removing scales of sin from our eyes. Right. Elia raised Thomas and his doubts and how he actually became a firm believer when proof was provided to him. Brother David dug up the Philippian jailer and all of the history related to his harsh treatment of Paul and Silas, ultimately to turn around completely and to be a transformed person. Kirk looked at the skeptical Gideon, who was then brought in, right? Polls not open yet, please don't vote yet. So Gideon turned to be this warrior, for his people. Sister Smith looked at Rahab, from prostitution to purpose. God sought her out and made a difference. And just to give her credit, she looked at that Rahab has been lost. Yes, one of the lost as well, and being found. All right. Kirk looked at Moses, similar to Gideon. Hey, not me, what are you talking about? And then ultimately becoming this powerful force for God. Sandra, again, did some deep research, looked at Manasseh, who was actually, uplifted, being king at an early age, got led astray, and then found the value of prayer, reaching out to God and being transformed and restored to a good place. And Brother Engel finally looked at the Ethiopian eunuch, who went in search of whatever it is, and got another ministry added to his portfolio that as minister of faith. All right, polls open. Let's go. Just type in the person, right? Polls open. If you don't remember the name of the person who made the presentation, you can deal with the character. Yes, like Tessa has done. Let's go. All right. So let me try and see if I can do some quick voting here. Paula. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so far. Just 3 votes so far? Am I right? Anybody has, with the Ministry of, not ministry, what do you call it? Poll watchers. Type in the chat, please. One vote, one person, one vote. One person, one vote. One person, one vote. Please. One person, one vote. Let's go. Where's everybody? We're not. Come on. Yeah, I think they were, Brother David, that's true. If that was you, Tenant Tribe, I agree. Everybody won. It was an excellent presentation. You have you need to talk to Brother Andre. Kirk says toss up between Saul, Paul, and Joseph. Zion says the 12 disciples. Yeah. Okay. Nolan says Joseph. Okay. This looks like everybody winning through. There's nobody winning 2 votes yet. All right. Okay. I think I'm going to take on Tenant Tribe that everybody won. I think it was a strong learning experience. When we look at the presentations, how many of them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah. So 14, I think I agree. Everybody won. Powerful presentations, lessons learned from it. Yeah. Powerful. I'm really encouraged. Thank Brother Stephen for this suggestion. I think that has been a useful exercise. I'm gonna open mic if you want. What is it that you have taken away from this? What is your big takeaway? This is a quick mic open, 2-sentence statement. Go. Anybody, you can just mic up. You don't have to put up things beforehand or anything like that. But just quickly, just what is your takeaway? Quick, mic up, quick, 2-sentence takeaway.
Hi, Brother Simon.
Go ahead. You don't have to greet me. Just speak. Boom. Go.
My takeaway is that no matter how shy or how bad you are, bad place you are, shy as myself, and when you put God in everything, you can come out victorious.
Thank you. Good example of the 2-sentence. Let's go. Next. Anybody else?
God has the power to transform you.
Thank you, Jason. Next. Brother Engel says there's more learning in the class from, I suppose, from what was presented. Let's go. Mic up. Last three.
God has a purpose for us. It doesn't matter where we start, it's how we finish.
Thank you, Brother Engel. If we finish up right, we don't want to finish up like Adonijah. Okay. Last two. Nine. All right. So thank you very much for the participation. My takeaway is God is really awesome and his purpose will not be denied. So we have to move on. We want to close out. I think we have some birthdays to sing for. Yeah, let me go back. I need to try to be poetic like Engel and Sister Smith. That's a good lesson, I agree. Yeah, get an assignment. Okay, so here we go. Natasha, Jaden. Not sure if Jaden is on. I think Sister Smith is on. Not sure about Roy. Is Natasha on? Natasha, if you're on, identify yourself. Doesn't look so. All right. So it's a Sister Smith then, right? No?
Hello.
All right, it's on. Okay. All right.
Hello, Rai. My sister.
Aye. Okay. Twins. Yeah. All right. So let's sing. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Sister Smith and Rai. Happy birthday to you. I won't go. Oh.
Thank
May
you.
the good Lord bless you. May the good Lord bless you. May the good Lord bless you. Happy birthday to Ono. All right. I don't see any outreach programs, no revivals. So the next time we meet, it will be on Tuesday for our midweek Bible class. And may God continue to watch over us, bless us, and keep us. I want to suggest, if you didn't have a chance, if you did not have a chance to participate in Navlight yesterday, I'm going to suggest that you go online and watch the replay. I'm promising you that it will be worth your time. Look on the screen, you will see how you can access it. Grieving is a part of our life. And so I'm just suggesting that the value of what was shared yesterday should not just go. That's my recommendation. I just want to thank Brother Andre again for really his mighty presentation yesterday. Very helpful. All right. And Brother Engel said,
Check the chat, bro.
I'm
Brother
looking at
Smith.
the chat. I'm looking at the chat. And what does it say? Good morning, brethren. Oh, Sister Beverly. Okay, good morning, brethren. Again, brethren, I have never really introduced myself to the St. Andrew Church, but my name is Beverly Sinclair. I'm a member of the church, originally from Highgate. Okay, then Mobile, then Grenada, back to Jamaica since last October. Been joining the services at St. Andrew via Zoom, and we continue to worship at St. Andrew via God. Looking forward to being at the building at some time. Thank you, Sister Beverly. Looking forward to meeting you as well. Wow. So we have some sisters from Grenada as well. I don't know how long you were there. But we can probably hook you up with Sister Noreen Hobbs and her crew. All right. So thank you. And we're going to stop the recording now. So if you wish, you can greet